Throughout my career, not only working for someone, but working with someone in all those situations, every time you talk to leaders, and especially it's true for me too, one of the things that I'll say is my favorite part about business, what brings me the most joy, are the people. Right? Isn't that true? I mean, when you get to see people reach their potential, excel, perform, really make something happen and make a difference in their own lives, and you can see them grow and get better. I mean, that's a thrill in order to watch something like that. And so I get so much joy learning and listening to the people that are within the organization. But you know what my biggest frustration is in business? The people, that's right. Those same people that you love and bring you such joy when they do well, there's also a group of people that doesn't do what you ask them to do, doesn't meet their metrics, doesn't hit their KPIs, isn't hitting their quota, isn't measuring up to performance, right? There's always these back and forth kind of problems. So the things that bring me the most joy are people, and the things that can bring me the most frustration are people, right? Well, what is it that you think causes that frustration for you, right? It's because they're not performing, not doing what you want them to do. So here's a question I ask in seminars all the time. What do you think is the number one reason why employees don't do what they're supposed to do? Now, I'll get all kinds of really good answers. Well, they weren't trained right. That sounds really good. Or they're not sure how to do it. That's really good. Or sometimes they've done it and there's been a negative consequence, so they don't want to do it again. So they've tried it, but it didn't work out. Or sometimes it's just more work to do it that way, so they don't want to do it, so they're being penalized to do it. Sometimes it's, I'm not compensated for it, right? There's a lot of good reasons that people come up with in those seminars that are real healthy as we talk about why employees don't do what they're supposed to do, but we never really get to what's the number one reason. The number one reason is this. The reason why employees don't do what they're supposed to do is they think they are. Let me say that again. The number one reason why employees don't do what they're supposed to do is because they think they are. Now, contrary to how you may feel about some of your employees, they didn't get up this morning, right, with the intention of doing a bad job, right? They didn't take the job with you so they could come in every day and make your life miserable. They didn't get up in the morning and go, okay, how can I really screw up today and make it bad, right? Now, how do I know this is true? Because, well, I go out to the mall, or I go out to the theater, to the movies with the family, and I see people and I'm like, why would you pierce that? Or why would you wear that? Or, right? But here's the thing, I'm making fun and I'm curious, but the truth is, that person that morning got up, put that outfit together, stood, looked in the mirror and went, looking good, right? Before they went out the door. They didn't try to dress and say, I want to wear something so elaborate that everybody talks about me today. They said, I want to make a statement with my personality and who I am. And they did that, right? So their intention was good. Your employees' intentions are good when they come into work, but they don't always do what they're supposed to do. And the number one reason is because they think that they are. Now, how does this happen? How can an employee think that they are doing right, but they're not? Your number one reason for why this is happening in your company is the lack of communication, the lack of accountability. Those two things, communication and accountability. You see, you've heard me talk a lot of times about what gets rewarded gets repeated, meaning that if an employee doesn't perform, doesn't do well, and there's no consequence, there's no accountability for that, then that is, in essence, a reward for not doing it. What ends up happening is we end up coming to the end of the year. It's time for our annual review. And we got all our notes, and we sit down and we give them the score, and it's going to be a 3 out of 5. And the employee's like, what do you mean it's going to be a 3 out of 5? You say, it's a 3 out of 5, and then you go through all the reasons why it's a 3 out of 5. And the employee's like going, well, I mean, you never said anything about this before. I mean, look at my numbers. I'm performing, I'm doing it, especially in retail. We used to have a lot of problem with this because someone would come in looking for a pair of shoes. They would buy a pair of shoes. And so the employee would say, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Yet the owner of that business said, yeah, but I also wanted you to add some socks. I wanted you to do it in a way that made them go talk about us. I wanted them to leave a Google review when they did that, right? So whether I'm buying shoes or I'm buying a tool, right, I could do that online. I could go and I could buy shoes online, or I could buy a tool online, and I could be satisfied, disappointed, it doesn't matter, right? If I get those shoes and I buy them in the store, okay, and I come home and I run in them, I wear them, and I'm like, man, these are okay shoes, they're not that great. Who am I going to blame in that situation? I'm going to blame the store. So when I need my next pair of shoes, I'm not going to go back to that store. Now, you know that's true, right? So you're thinking about that as the owner. The problem is your employee thinks his job is to sell shoes. And so they think they're doing their job because they sold the shoes. And you're saying, well, no, wait, hang on. It's not just how selling the shoes, it's how we sell the shoes. Is that the right shoe for them, right? Not just selling something to make sure it's the right fit for them. Even in a B2B environment, we oftentimes coach our clients to say, hey, look, business fit is an important component of whether or not you should even do business with this company. When you're interviewing to sell somebody else, you want to know how they operate, how they think, and see if your culture's aligned, if your business ideas and ideologies align. Because if they don't, there's not a fit there, you should probably walk away from that, right? So as an employee knows what they're supposed to do, I'm supposed to get my quota, right? And then you're saying, well, you got your quota, but you didn't enter anything in CRM, or you got your quota, but you did it on very low margins. You got that? You see the disconnect here? Is they think they're doing it right. They're focusing on quota, and they're getting quota, and they're getting recognized for quota, right? But in your mind, you're like, I'm only going to give them a 3 out of 5 because they got low margins, they got those other things. And you weren't having those conversations with them. Remember, communication and accountability. You weren't having this communication with them until the annual review. You weren't holding them accountable until that point in time, right? So if the number one reason why employees don't do what they think they're supposed to do is because they think they are, the number one reason they're not is you, right? You have to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing everything possible for this employee to be successful? You know, I have to first analyze myself. Am I doing my job correctly before I look at that? But if you start looking at all of your employees around you, and instead of thinking, man, that guy is not doing it right, they drive me crazy, right? The frustrations that come with that. If instead you start looking at that employee and saying, I wonder if that employee thinks they're doing it right, that's a disconnect that can be solved, right? That's a disconnect to be solved. And I promise you, it's happening a lot in your company, and you're not paying attention or seeing or knowing, and maybe it's because you didn't realize it. But today you know, right? So remember, the number one reason why they don't do what they're supposed to do is because they think that they are, but you can work with that.